Hey everyone, and welcome to We Should Talk About This, the show where we dive into unfiltered conversations about business, work, and life. I'm your host, Amy Seddon, and I'm here with my brilliant co-host, Nilofer Rao.
Hello. Hi, everyone. We started this podcast because honestly, these are the conversations we were already having late at night, over coffee, voice notes, and texts about everything from navigating careers to figuring out how to actually live a smarter, better life while realizing that the issues that we were all facing are the same across the world, whether you live in India, UAE, or the US. So grab your coffee, your wine, your spreadsheet, whatever you need, and let's get into it.
So, Nilofer, what are you reading or watching?
So I am watching, or I rather just finished watching Department Q on Netflix.
I don't know what that is.
Highly recommend it. I don't know. I feel like British criminal shows are just so good. They are so gripping, such good humor, and the
Yeah.
plot so nice. So like one of the ones that I recently loved was Dark Horses on Apple TV. I'm not sure if you've seen that too.
I feel like maybe, but like I feel like it's been out for a while, right?
Yeah, they came up with like a new season, I think,
Okay.
later last year. But
Okay.
that like the humor, the pacing, everything is so good. And then I
Mhm.
think we were looking for a really good show because we were not able to find anything, and Department Q like really hit that. So highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another show of We Should Talk About This, where we unpack the stuff most people are thinking about, but not always saying out loud. And today we're talking about how the boundary between work and home can often get blurred. How often do we take work feelings home with us? And how hard it is to turn off our brains from work mode to home life. And especially now, since we're so connected with technology, it's so easy to take work into your home environment. The boundaries have been getting very blurred, and we want to talk about our own experiences and other people's thoughts that we've heard.
I think it's a great topic. I know that I have often struggled with setting a very clear boundary between work and home. At Amazon, I'm bringing my laptop into bed with me to start a sale at midnight and to do those last minute QC checks, and was never really giving time to myself to really unwind at the end of the day or sort of giving that time to my partner. Actually, I even worked throughout my honeymoon. It was mainly because like I joined this new team, we were launching a new program, but it was so trivial. It was something that someone else could have done, but there was almost this sort of expectation that I had of myself and I felt that the team had of me, where
Yeah.
my partner would go to sleep at 10 p.m. and we were in Thailand. So this was like late. You would go to sleep at
I honestly cannot believe that you did that. I remember you feeling stressed like before your wedding and
yeah.
trying to like coordinate this new work team.
So I actually worked on my wedding day. I don't know if I told you that. We were all at the hotel. I obviously
Mm-hmm.
did not have my laptop with me. And
Yeah.
then my manager called me and he was like, we need to turn this on. No one is able to figure out how to do it. Can you do it? And I'm like, I'm kind of getting ready for like cocktail and I don't have my laptop with me. Imagine if I was like in a different city. I mean, we were very lucky because home was like 30 minutes away from the hotel. So then I got someone to bring the laptop. And as my makeup artist was doing the makeup, I actually figured out the solution to it and we went live. But that to me blew my mind. Right. And so it was that I took into it was a new role. And I took that, I think, which is what led me to sort of work throughout the honeymoon. And it was so stupid. And I have pictures and videos where my partner is like, look at her, please fixing this, who is the consultant on the honeymoon trip. And I did not want to be that person. So
Right. I think it's frustrating when you like reflect back and you're like, I can't believe I worked so hard and like let it seep into my personal life when it's like they don't care about you at all.
Yeah.
And like for that example, it feels like there's this like weird sense of urgency. Companies have created this culture of needing to be responsive all the time. And the concept of something is an emergency, it's not the true definition of an emergency. We've just like made up deadlines or create this like panic over something going live when in reality it's all made up.
True. And what was really interesting was, and I don't even remember who said this to me, but this sort of a check that I do now for my partner and for myself, and whenever we are feeling stressed about a made up deadline, I'm like, are you a doctor? No. Are you a policeman or let's say in the defense services or forces? No.
Yeah.
So your work is really not life saving. It will not make a difference to your client if you send it at 10 versus 10:30 versus 11 p.m. They will any which way take a look at it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
It's the same with like, let's say going live with the sale. I know these are deadlines and there's a reason why there's a deadline, but like the amount of anxiety and stress that brings into your personal life where you're up until like 11:30 p.m. or even midnight figuring out what's going wrong. I don't think that's correct. And I don't think that's needed.
Right. And like for me, I always put work on my personal phone. So I was always connected to it. And it was so easy for someone to Slack message me or Teams message, like whatever platform it is, even WhatsApp or phone call. It felt like it didn't matter if I was like closing my computer at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever it is. Anyone could reach me at all times. And then I would create this like, I don't know what it's called, but like mentally, I would be like, okay, I have to respond to this person who's messaging me at like 8 p.m. And especially if it was my boss, when like my boss might not understand like what I'm doing at my end of the day. And I almost wish that there was clearer communication between people where it was like, okay, I'm just messaging you this. Like, you don't need to respond or look at this right now. Like, this is just like, I'm going through my to do list at the end of the day. But right now, I feel like since we can just take our phones home and it's like sitting in our lap with our families all the time, it's so hard to like shut off the brain.
Yeah. And that's actually a very good one. Two things that I want to pull out from what you said. One thing was that this was almost 2.5 years ago, and one of my managers at Amazon absolutely loved him, right? An amazing being. And I sent him an email at like 10:30 p.m. just because I wanted to get it off my list. Like I was doing an analysis and I got really into it. My partner was working. And so I was like, okay, let me just like get it off my list so that he can take a look at it tomorrow morning. And then we had our weekly check-in in a few days, and he sort of raised that. He was like, "Why were you sending me something at 10:30 p.m.? Like,
Mhm.
do you need help? In the sense that is it too much work, and do you need help?" I was like, "Oh no, I was just like getting it off my. I was just getting it out of my inbox so that you could take a look
Yeah.
at it because I was in a flow." And I think something that he said still resonates with me. And I wish there were more people like that around and more managers like that around, where he was like, I'll be very honest with you. I have stopped looking. I've been having sort of mental, you know, health issues or anxiety, and I have stopped looking at my email post 7 p.m. So if you're messaging me or emailing me, I'm not going to respond. And
Yeah.
I would encourage you to do the same. So once he said that to me, I actually did something phenomenal, which came back to bite me 2 years later. But I removed emails from my personal phone and
Oh, so
I
interesting.
muted my chime after
Mhm.
I just mute my chime after like 8 p.m. And I
Mhm.
assumed that if someone really needed me urgently, they would just call me.
Yeah.
And that sort of led me into, and like I told my current manager, like my last manager, that I don't have emails on my phone. I do monitor it. I monitor it over the weekend, obviously, but like I don't check it all the time. So I just want to set very clear boundaries. I'm not going to respond to you over an email at immediately. It might take
Right.
time if you send it to me post a certain amount of time. And then last year something happened where there was like whatever, an emergency. And I was
Mhm.
on my laptop. So I saw it and I was responding, la la la. This was on Sunday. We spent 3 hours on it. Like we fixed the issue. No one had to tell me. I immediately responded. And then the next Monday he was like, I think it's time for you to install email on your personal phone. And I was like, why? Was there a need that you feel that I was not there when you needed me or I did not respond on time? And even if you did, by the way, like you can always call me, right? Like if it was so urgent, you can just give me a call and be like, hey, like this is happening. Can you take a look?
Yeah.
For a week, I'm not kidding you. Every single day he would ask me and he would be like, I think you should install email on your personal phone. And I didn't
And
skip it. But
right. That's crazy. And I feel like we all want to set the boundary between work and home, but there's a culture that doesn't allow you to set that boundary. Like you have one boss that was like, okay, you need to create a boundary for yourself. And it's easy in that situation because that boss did it for
yeah,
himself.
yeah,
But then you move teams, and then on your honeymoon, you're working, and at your wedding, you're working. Like, I feel like the more I talk to people about this, I'm like, oh, just set a boundary. But that is not an easy answer because depending on your team, depending on your company, like if someone doesn't respect the boundary, there's no such thing as a boundary.
that is so well put. I think
Yeah.
you put it so, so well because when I was leaving and I was talking to my ex manager, he was like, didn't you set boundaries? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, you should set boundaries with people. And I was like, dude, I did. They were just not respected. Like, whether that is saying, I'm going to be disconnected for 10 days, this is like who we are delegating stuff to, or whatever that might be. And I think it's also on us. I think it's not sort of your immediate boss or your team. It's also on us to respect those boundaries
Yeah.
because I think post COVID, it's so hard to separate between home and work.
Yeah.
There is an infinite work day. And I remember during COVID, like we used to work 14, 15 hours a day because you would just literally get out for like bathroom breaks. You had like back to back calls and you were checking your emails all the time. So there's an interesting sort of fact that we found, which was that Microsoft data shows that an average worker gets 117 emails per day. What I think we should check is whether that includes all the meeting invites and whatever not.
Vape.
That person is getting interrupted every 2 minutes during work hours.
Yeah.
And I think these emails don't stop beyond 7 p.m. because with Amazon, while my team might have stopped working, US then wakes up or, someone from India might be pinging you all the time. And over half of the meetings, which I've seen so many memes on social media and, there's like a whole thing on HBR are impromptu calls. And there's that meme that would go like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but like this could have been a meeting, like this could have been an email.
Oh,
As
yeah, yeah.
a meeting.
I'm seeing
So-
that.
And that is so true. Like sometimes you jump into it, it's like it's a 10-minute call, and you're like, well, spent 10 minutes, we could have just emailed me, like, or we were already aligned. Why did you check with me?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's really hard. The creating the boundaries and respecting them yourself and getting someone else to respect it is really, really hard. Easier said than
Yeah, we definitely have like meeting fatigue. Like we're obsessed with creating meetings just for the purpose of feeling productive.
yeah.
And like we're obsessed with saying things like, oh, I get 117 emails a day. It's almost like you want to prove to everyone that we're all working. But in reality, I don't even know if we need to be working for as many hours as these companies want you to be on the bench for.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I hear the 117 email in a day, it truly is like this 24/7 nonstop connection. It probably all started with COVID and having that remote environment, but it's definitely affecting people's mental health and even blurring your identity a little bit of trying to separate like who you are at work versus like who you are at home. I also read recently a study that found 64% of remote workers report worse mental health. and a third feel like they're always on. We're doing like a disservice to our society by like just accepting this and saying, hey, everyone needs to respond all the time. We need to like prove some kind of worth or productivity by always responding, reading all these meetings, reading all these deadlines.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like something's going to blow up, I feel.
Yeah. And I mean, we are doing that now and I feel bad about it because there are times we're both working together on Bubs and our time zones are so different. So like I'll send you messages when you're sleeping and vice versa. And I'm so conscious of the fact the first thing that you probably see on your phone when you wake up is like 10 messages from me,
Yeah.
which is not fun. But I think
But it is.
for
It's
now,
I think though I was thinking about this when we were like researching for this topic. I feel like there's a difference between feeling forced to show up and respond all the time than wanting to be there, and also knowing that we respect each other enough that like if I said to you like, "Hey, I have a lot going on because I'm doing X, Y, and Z, so I can't like do this week." I know that you would say, "Okay, that's totally fine." Or like, I'll tell you in advance I can't do it, and then we would prepare. It just feels like different when someone is willing to like work with you on your timetable versus you feeling like obligated. Like your boss is telling you respond to me on your phone. It's
yeah,
worse.
I know. And I think it's also part of it is like, well, maybe the difference between entrepreneurship and corporate life, because
Yeah.
if it takes off, the upside is unlimited. Whereas with corporate, I think start seeing that limited upside, you know, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
that's how I justify it. But that in my mind, when I was respecting on this, that was something else that I was thinking like the upside is so different.
Yeah.
And in fact, like the whole aspect of like emails and being always on just doesn't surprise me. And to
Mhm.
your point, there's always this, you're always trying to prove yourself, but also to
Yeah.
your team, to your employer. And I remember in my early 20s when I was in consulting, I would just wake up for your bathroom breaks at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. And I would always check my email. And if it was like a simple enough email, I would respond. Because in my mind, I was sort of like having this high flying career in a different country and like having so much fun. And now I look, and no one took advantage of that, which was, I think, the good thing. So I stopped doing that with my previous job because I think everyone would have taken advantage of the fact that I was responding during midnight bathroom breaks.
Oh my god. You were way more, like, responsive and committed than I was even in my 20s. Like, I feel like I always felt this urgency to respond, but I don't know if I would respond while taking a bathroom break in the middle of the night. Probably not.
I'm glad you did. I don't recommend it. It was definitely not worth it. I think 10
Yeah.
years later, like, not worth it.
In my early 20s, like, I mean, this was before COVID, I did feel like I had to be at the office for really long hours. Like, I would always get in so early before meetings would start because that would be the most productive that I could be. And then it's just like nonstop meetings till the end of your day. And then you go home kind of unsatisfied because maybe there was just like you couldn't respond to all the emails that like filled up or there was something panicky happening. Now when I have worked right before I left my last job, I almost feel like caring less helped me create the boundary. Like you start to realize that by not responding right away, what the consequences are not that bad. Like there are truly just incompetent people that are working and not getting fired. We just accept poor culture or people that are just not doing well at work. And I don't know why I was like holding myself to such a high standard. There's also like creating this mental boundary where you just don't care as much. Whereas being an entrepreneur, you feel more connected to the work, you care, you want to respond, you want to work hard, you like what you're doing. And that is a big shift to the boundaries are blurred, but in a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think what is really interesting is also what you said, right? Like the standards that you set for yourself. And I think when you have so much pressure at work and you're setting such high standards for yourself at work, you let them go in your personal life.
Yeah.
And when you're bringing that work to your home life,
Yeah.
your sort of standard go down there. So it will never be that, irrespective of what everyone tells you, you will never be an all-star performer in all aspects of your life. And I think every phase of life is different, where you're like in your 20s, you're like, okay, I want to build my career. So I'm going to be an A-star performer there and I'm going to be amazing at what I do and like no boundaries and whatever not. But you've built that tape for yourself. And when you want to pivot to your personal life in your 30s, it becomes really hard because you've conditioned yourself to think that way. And it takes time. I think what you're saying resonates so much because everyone that I know around me is like, oh, I care less about work. I think very few people are able to do that. It takes
Yeah.
so long to reach a point where if anyone from my team messages me, it still would trigger me because I would be like, oh, now I have to respond. I have to check this number. I have to do this. Like,
Yeah.
even though I would tell you that towards the end, I just couldn't care anymore. But
It's like a habit or like trained response that it's hard to break. I mean, it even was hard for me to break towards the end. I also think like we're talking about the physical aspect of bringing work home where we're responding to emails or phone calls. But there's also this like emotional part where, let's say you had a really hard day and like your boss yells at you and you're just frustrated and you bring that feeling home and you're just more reactive to your partner or to your family. I know I spoke to one friend who's a teacher and was saying she like habitually lectures her kids when she comes home from work because it's like really hard for her to leave the classroom and the identities are blurring. And I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like it's like a little scary to be like, how do you separate that and not and create like different almost identities or not let the emotional aspect blur?
yeah, I think that's such a complicated thing to get over.
Mhm.
And I know we all feel it, and my partner feels it too. I think he travels for work every week. And so for him, I think the physical distance, you would think that the physical distance would help once he's back home versus the client side, but it's really not because again, you're on all the time and he's like thinking all the time. And then he's over the weekend, he's prepping for the next week. And so we just came back from a vacation and he was doing what I did over my honeymoon during my honeymoon. So he was working like 2, 3 hours every night. And mind you, like the vacation was very difficult to plan as it was constantly on like back to back projects. Our last one was in September. So it was like a long one, a long time coming. And what I felt really bad was like for him, obviously, because he was putting in those hours, despite the fact that he was physically so distant from where he is. There was also the number of times that he felt like he was ignoring me on the vacation and he kept apologizing for it. I think that was more hard hitting for me, where I was like, you don't have to apologize. I completely understand. But I guess there's that guilt. And I wonder if it's the same, like, for example, when you are not able to spread that identity at work versus home. There's almost that guilt that you're not giving your family or your partner that 100% time or attention um,
Yeah.
in the right way.
Yeah. I
Uh,
agree. I think like it's a guilt because you know that whatever reaction you're having or emotional response you're having is not necessarily related to your family or your partner. Subir, like he feels guilty because he was distracted and he was working when he like wants to be present with you, right? And I think there's like that split where it's like you want to be able to walk in your door and just completely have this like happy, chill, whatever, relaxing evening or have a very nice vacation and not think about anything that's happening. But it's like really difficult to have that separation. I don't really know what the solutions are. Like, have you heard of anything that people have done to like create either the physical boundary or the emotional boundary so that there's a little bit more balance in your life?
Yeah, I am trying really hard to do that. So I don't know if I have the right solutions or even like talking to friends, but we can brainstorm through them and like, talk about the ones that we have read from studies and stuff. And I think like Harvard Business Review does such a good job like coming up with these articles that tell you how to manage your work anxiety and separate yourself from work. But I think what I'm realizing now, and I, especially with my part, what I'm realizing is that when you're working remote and you're fully remote, it really helps to have a dedicated working space. It does not have to be an office. Mine is like my living room, as you can probably see. But the minute I come down, I have my coffee, I open my laptop. And the minute I walk away from it, whether that is for a walk or whether that is upstairs, that's like a separation from the space for me. Now,
Yeah.
I might have to work on it a little bit more because I've realized that over the past few weeks, like as my partner is like maybe having a chill evening and watching TV, while I'm watching TV with him, I'm also on my laptop. So I still need, that's how I was like, it's still a work in progress.
I
Or
know.
just define schedules in terms of having a fixed start, having a end of the day, or even like a flexible schedule where you know that you're only working 8 hours because you have something in the middle of the day. But having that boundary with when you start versus when you end, I think that is so, so key.
Yeah.
And there's this one tidbit that I want to share. I met this 65-year-old woman in Dolomites from
Mhm.
New York. She is the CMO of Citigroup.
Okay.
And we spent 3 hours on a hike talking to her and her partner about everything in life, right? Like, probably never going to see them again. But it was so interesting because she was telling me about like how she's able to manage work and have boundaries. And I was like, okay, like tell me about your schedule. And she's like, well, I get in early, I'm in office by 8, and then I leave by 4. Then I go and do my yoga and then have dinner with my partner. And then I check my emails at night.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're basically doing what we are all still doing in our 30s. There is
Yeah.
maybe for her, boundary is that no one will disturb me for that 1 hour, or I'm not going to look at my phone for that 1 hour when I'm in my yoga class.
Yeah.
But that whole idea of like just like completely separating yourself from work didn't seem so plausible to me with her. And like,
Yeah.
also, she told Sabir this, which was very insightful, where she's like, oh, I have to go and check my emails now. And I was like, but you're on vacation. You just told us to like have boundaries. And you're in the corporate America. These are the boundaries that you're setting up for your team as well, right? And she's like, yeah, but like you guys are in your 30s and you're staying in this amazing hotel. Why do you think that is happening? It doesn't happen because you have these clear boundaries. It's because there's a certain expectation that you have of yourself. Like, oh man, we're back to it's like all the work that you've done over the past few years like goes away when you meet someone
Yeah.
who believes in the idea but doesn't know how to practice it. How do you
Yeah.
treat yourself from work and how do you let your team do the same?
Right.
So
I
that was super interesting to me. Or I was like, you're preaching something, and she's like, I'm trying to delegate it to my executive assistant and this and that, and I'm like, but you're still on.
I think one struggles with this concept of having a boundary. It doesn't matter what age, it doesn't matter what stage in your career. It doesn't even matter like if you're an entrepreneur or if you're not an entrepreneur. Still don't know like what the answer is, and it might be different for different people. Like what you're describing, like creating your own sickle space where you work. I've heard that and I've tried that. Like I have an office space, but I still end like, sometimes working like downstairs on the couch or sometimes working outside on the patio. Like I'm finding I like changing environments and it doesn't feel like it's like I need that kind of boundary for myself. I have also found that I actually don't care if I'm working non-traditional hours. It's more that when I want to do the things that I want to do that are personal or with my family, I want to be able to do that and have that freedom and not have judgment and not have someone telling me not to do it. Like that is what is work life balance to me. So I don't care if I'm like, I'm responding to you at 5 a.m., because it's like your day. It like works out well for me because like I work a little bit in the morning and then I can have a nice walk with my partner before he goes to work. And then I have a whole morning to do some stuff, but then your day shuts off and I can like chill out for a little bit and then talk to you later in the evening. I feel like everyone has a different balance, and it's more like whether it's blocking off your calendar and creating those times for yourself, having that physical space. We all just need to, I feel like, collectively accept the fact that like working 24/7 is going to blow up in all of our faces if we don't stop it.
100%. And I also read about this like transition ritual that of some people do. Basically, sort of have a ritual where you'd start disconnecting from work. So, for example, a friend of mine would just call his mom when he was driving back from office to home.
Mhm.
And that is when he would like completely mentally shut off and like go into
Yeah.
like home mode. For me, it is when I go and chat to my mom and I have my like evening walk for an hour. And that is when I like completely just switch off. And after that, if I log on, that is because I want to do it, not because anyone else has asked me to do it. And I think it's just really nice because that sort of gives you that space where you don't have to interact with anyone. You find your own way to come back into your home life environment. And then it's up to you in terms of like what you do after that. But at least hopefully you've had a little bit of a separation from your work.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, with all of that being said, I think we all can try different things where we're creating this imaginary boundary, but I think it really comes from the top. So if, a boss, a VP, a director, a president, a founder sets boundaries, then that trickles down below. I think it becomes more challenging to create a boundary when the culture is, oh, we need you all the time. So who knows, maybe like the Gen Zs can come in and take over these companies and just say, hey, the robots are going to take over and we're all just going to be influencers.
Successful influencers, I hope.
Yeah. Or like, we're not even an influencer. It's like some AI that's created of ourselves, like little characters of ourselves.
Telling you about work-life balance and creating that creation from your work identity. But yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that was like what you said is 100% true. Like it's not just you, it's everyone around you that sort of helps you with that separation. And I think what a lot of us, like what we talked about and what comes to light for me is it's all top down. And I can see that with my partner, see that with friends, see that with us. And I really hope we become the kind of people that when we have more employees, we're like that are, leaders than the ones that we had.
Same. We don't have all the answers, but talking about this with others has made us realize how many people are struggling with setting boundaries between work and life. And I think just starting to have this conversation with more people, having it at work with your employees or coworkers is just a start to finding the path where we can have more balance between work and life. Anyway, that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. Dance music. Cue music.